research, and I realized that, damn, almost every single entrepreneur is in stage one burnout.
100%. Totally agree. Let's be perfectly honest. How do you be the best entrepreneur that you need to be able to build the business, earn the money, have the life that you really want? That's what we dive into this episode. Dave, that you're going to meet in just a second, I just met last week in a mastermind, and he is one of my favorite human beings in the world. He's absolutely phenomenal. So when it comes to you having self-leadership, you being able to get done what it is that you actually need to get done, and not trying to do 100 million things which really could be wasting your time, and being able to figure out what it is that you need to be doing, we go into that. Plus, we go into how do you avoid entrepreneurial burnout. As Dave says in this episode, most entrepreneurs, the very vast majority of entrepreneurs, are in stage one burnout. And I've gone much higher. Dave has gone much higher as well. And I want you to avoid burnout, because it's not all about hustle, grind, and just trying to work 24/7. That's not the answer. And what is the answer is what we go into this episode. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you after this episode. So be sure to comment below with all the comments so I can personally come in and answer them for you. Now, I'm very excited to be jumping in, because this episode is with one of my most favorite human beings on this earth that I only just recently met. Dave is somebody that is one of the OGs when it comes to the online fitness world. He's somebody that's actually doing some epic things. And when he talks at a recent event that I was in Tampa, I felt like you were just talking to me the whole entire time. There's a lot of stuff that you are very, very good at, Dave, that I know the audience and the listeners is going to be able to take so much. So I'm selfishly very excited for this conversation, but also because we get to share this out as well. So, dude, thank you so much for taking the time out and being here.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. I really like the fact that, we just met not too long ago, and I got bumped to one of your favorite human beings. Massive,
straight up there. The bromance is very strong right now, and I think we should roll.
Very strong bromance, so the audience knows what's going on. Absolutely.
All right, let's dive into this, Dave. Let's who is Dave and why he's so phenomenal? Let's cover the important facts first.
Thanks, brother. I'm phenomenal because you say so. I don't think I'm phenomenal, but
fact.
But no, I've been an online entrepreneur for about 10 years now. I've had most of my businesses in the fitness space.
Yep.
I had business in the publishing space, in supplements as well. Over the past 4 years or so, I really focused more on business coaching and executive coaching. And I specialize mostly on business efficiency, on entrepreneurial burnout as well, and on self-leadership for entrepreneurs. So that's what I do now through most of what I do now through my company called Ethic. Yep. And we have different tools and trainings to make entrepreneurs and small businesses work smarter, better, and simpler.
Yes, and like I want to talk to the journal that you have, the diary that you use. What do you actually call it?
The Ethic Planner.
The Ethic Planner.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that later in this, because I do want to dive into it, because the system, it's something that I've kind of pieced together really poorly myself here and there. But then when you had it, I was like, oh, this is exactly it. So absolutely brilliant. Let's talk about self-leadership first, because I feel like this is probably one of the most important topics that we can cover. What is self-leadership to you, and how do you instill it in yourself?
Good question. It's when we talk about leadership, most of the time we talk about, professional leadership, right? So how to be a better business leader, how to lead your business better, how to make more profit, etc. Really, when it comes to self-leadership, it's about, having the right structure for you that enables your best work, right? And that makes you just the better version of yourself. Yeah. So that's a lot of what I do now with a lot of my clients. I work a lot with now with CEOs and COs, for example, so business leaders. But most of the work that we do is not focusing on how they can increase their sales or how they can increase their direct leadership, let's say, within their teams. It's really on their self-leadership, because it's like the analogy of the oxygen mask in the plane, right? If the oxygen mask comes down, well, use it put it on yourself before assisting others, right? That makes sure you're operational. Well, that's the same thing. That analogy is simple, but that's the same thing in life and in business. And the problem with a lot of entrepreneurs, they tend not to take care of themselves, right? And they put their own needs last. And that's a big problem. So it affects their business leadership, their professional leadership quite a bit as a result. So I really help them take care of themselves. We mostly focus on their health, their relationship, but also their personal freedom.
Yeah.
And when we do that, and when they have that implemented in their life, it changes the way they do business, because from there they can do their best work. And there's something magic. You know it when you create your best work. You know it when I call it purposeful performance. When you are in that state of purposeful performance where you're completely aligned with, what you really want and what you're really great at. And that shows, right? And that's something that, I had to find out for myself as well before I actually started teaching it a few years ago. I was in that place of being a business leader, and I burnt out a few years ago. And I had to set up a lot of systems in place in my personal life and in my professional life in order to lead myself way better. And the thing is that I was always pretty good, I was always good at building business systems. And I'm like, you know what, if a guy like you who is pretty good at building business systems gets there, I cannot imagine, how it must be for the entrepreneur in general.
Yeah.
And I started doing some digging because I wanted to write this book about entrepreneurial burnout. And I started doing some interviews. I started digging, doing a lot of research, and I realized that, damn, almost every single entrepreneur is in stage 1 burnout.
100%. Totally agree.
And I had to, since I was doing quite a bit of coaching at the time, I started developing different systems for my clients, because I was doing pretty much straight, online business coaching.
Yeah.
And that led me to start Epic and then write a book, etc. But yeah.
This is awesome. Now
that was a long intro with a lot.
That was good. It's good. Filled with golden nuggets. Filled with golden nuggets.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll definitely say one of the takeaways that I got from the talk that you did in Tampa, buddy, was talking about KPIs and also personal KPIs, especially with team members as well. That was something I implemented like literally that day. I messaged everyone on my team and I went, we are setting personal KPIs right now. And like one that everybody took up was how many date nights are you taking your partner out per week? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you have one date night, and have you actually been able to stick with that? And I love that, do you know, and this is the stuff that's so important, being able to, but not even them doing it, me doing it as well. Do you know, and making sure Lauren and I take that time out. And even like, as we're traveling, we've gone pretty nomad for say the next 3 to 4 months right now, still being able to instill that and having those systems on board. So I found it really good timing, meeting you, talking to you, learning from you, especially going into this new chapter for myself and being like, okay, like if I'm going to be literally like, I'm in the Airbnb in Venice, California right now, how can I have the systems in place for me to have my day structured, have the business structured, have the team running, all this kind of stuff, so I can enjoy life at the same time. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. There are not enough people talking about self-leadership, but the way that you're doing it, practically putting it into play as well, and actually having those systems in. Let's talk about the planner, the EFIC planner, because I think this is something that is a needed system. Like, I think the word needed should be like doing in prefaces right there and underlined. How did you actually come about to coming together with this system? Like, what was the origin story of this?
Yeah, so there's an analogy that saved my life, but that upgraded my life a lot. And that's the analogy from Dr. Stephen Covey. So we all know Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and nobody really knows about all the work that he did. There's another book that he had called The First Things First. And in that book, he talks about the big rocks, the small rocks, and the sand, right? So that analogy is pretty much to illustrate prioritization. So picture like you have a jar or a bucket in front of you. And in this jar, and then next to it, you have, big rocks, you have small rocks, and you have sand. So we're all busy, right? Especially entrepreneurs. That's why it works so well for entrepreneurs, is that we're very busy people. So our businesses, there's always stuff going on, right? So we're mostly reactive in our business, right? Oh, this site is broken, or this customer support, emergency, because everything's an emergency, right? and we focus on the sand too much, right? So you're going to put that sand in your jar. The jar or the bucket represents, let's say the time you have available, or your life and business in general, everything that you want. So you couldn't put these things that are small stuff, but that take most of your time. You're going to put that first, like most people do. From there, you're like, well, maybe I should focus on, things that are a little bit more important. So you're going to do and start, working on, okay, well, maybe I'm going to prioritize one task and then the other one. And you're going to pour these small rocks in that jar, right? So now you have a layer of sand, you have a layer of small rocks. But what happens when you want to prioritize the really important stuff, right? The big rocks. There's not enough space for the big rocks, And if you do the opposite, you take the big rocks, which represent, what you really want to accomplish, right? What needs to get done, and you prioritize that. You put that first into your bucket. Then you pour in, all the tasks that revolve around that, all the small rocks. You're going to pour that. What's going to happen is that the small rocks are going to go into all the crevices and the holes created by, these big rocks, right? And from there, when you pour in the small stuff, that happens. Small stuff happens. It's life, it's business, that's what it is. But when you prioritize it that way and you pour the sand in the end, what's going to do, it's going to fill all the small gaps, all the small holes that are being created between these big rocks and these small rocks in order to have a perfectly filled bucket, right? And it's a simple analogy, but when you start implementing that in your life and in your business, it changes everything. So it's such a great concept for entrepreneurs that I decided to re-put that into a planner, because I was using that for myself in my old notebook a few years ago, and I was pretty good at it. That's how it worked. And then my students needed really a nice framework in order to execute. So I built that for them. I realized that, so I just had PDFs for them, and they were printing them, putting that into a big binder. But when they wanted to go to work at the coffee shop, they had to take out their huge binder. It didn't work, right? So I had a lot of requests for a planner, so that's what I did. I'm a planner guy too. I love paper planners. I use, well, itself, I use them all the time. For me, it's like, I build it for myself first, honestly.
Yeah.
And my students, and then it became a huge success among entrepreneurs because it's really, really, really made for the entrepreneurial brain. So not only you have this system, but you also have a set of routines, rituals, habits that I invite you to implement. And there's also an idea box. So, we're entrepreneurs. We have a boatload of ideas, 60 million ideas every 6 seconds. So no, we got an overflow of ideas. So we got to manage that. So you don't get sidetracked by the new shiny, right? So there's a place for that in that planner. There's a place for notes, etc. So it's a very complete planner made for the entrepreneur.
Totally agree. I'm going to say as well, Dave, that the review, and I'll put my hand up and say, one of my faults is not reviewing properly, not looking back and actually going, oh, I actually did good, rather than always being like, oh, I want to get there. I must get there. I must run through walls to get there.
Right.
And using that weekly review so far has been brilliant. That one of the best things I've been able to implement, because it's just like, oh, okay, I have achieved these things. This is what I've done. This is what happened. And this is the outcome. Let's make it better. Or let's actually enjoy it. Like, let's actually celebrate what has happened.
100%. So it's another big thing is reviewing what you've done. But what we do as well, we have what we call strategic boundaries, right? So we have a playing ground in order, in which you play. And you're limited to 3 buckets per quarter, right? So 3 big projects that you can really work on. And it's based for that. If you have full 3 buckets per quarter, you're going to be busy. That's all I can tell you. So it's really in order for you not to take on too much work, not to lose control of your work week, and regain really full control. And when you look at that, and as you said, you go every week and you look at what you've done, and you start actually checking some boxes, say, hey, I did that. Here's that small rock done. Here's that small rock done. And you realize that, after a while, your big rock, your milestone, your project is being completed, and it feels good. You realize that, I'm actually accomplishing a lot of stuff. I'm not just reacting to my business.
Yes.
I'm actually being very much proactive with the execution. So it feels really good. And I think a whole lot of entrepreneurs have that. We go in business for freedom, right? We go in business because we want to do what we want, when we want, with who we want, how we want it. And we resist structure because of it. And that's a weird thing. But as your business grows, you realize that, damn, it just becomes a massive chaos.
It becomes a massive shit fight.
It is. And you realize that you got to self-impose these boundaries so you can perform properly. So it all comes back to, self-leadership, and it starts there. It's just the basic strategic boundaries, habits, routines, rituals that you implement into your life. Just like if you're into fitness, it's the exact same thing. Yeah. If you go to the gym and you train whatever at any given time, and then you come back home and you have whatever food, you're not going to make progress. So this is why you have training programs. This is why you have meal plans, etc. Right? This is a structure. These are strategic boundaries for fitness, right? I know you have a lot of fitness people listen.
It is a perfect analogy. If you walk into the gym and just train whatever you want, you go home and eat whatever you want, and it's kind of like whatever's in front of you, or whatever machine is free, or you're never going to achieve the results that you want because it's always haphazard. Yeah,
exactly. And you have the routine, right? So on Monday you do this, and on Tuesday you train that, and on Monday you train chess, obviously. Just kidding. We're all like that. We're like, no, I'm not training chess on Monday. No, we all train chess on Monday.
You're funny. Okay, let's talk about this. I feel like the freedom aspect is really important, and having structure really important. And what we can do so easily is go too far. And I know this is my fault for sure. Like, this is the thing that I need to work on. And this is where I feel like you're talking about a topic that not very many people are talking about, and that's burnout. When you say like, okay, every entrepreneur is in stage 1 burnout, I'd say for sure, 100%. I've never completely burnt out. I don't think. Like, this is where it's a gray line for me, because I'm not that clued into it. Like, I've heard stories of people just not being able to get out of bed. Do you know what I mean? I remember Chris Ducker was one person. I remember watching him speak once, and he was like, he burnt out. He couldn't get out of bed. And I was like, oh my God, like, that's crazy. And I've gone through times where I'm naturally a very motivated person. I can get up, go get the job done. There's been times where I'd get up and be like, oh, I just don't feel like this. And then I'd be like, immediate thought, what is wrong with me? What's going on? Like, that's not me. What is it with burnout? Why is it that we can so easily fall into it? How do we avoid it? Like, there's so many questions to this day. Help me.
So, yeah, but like, there's one thing about burnout. It's like, it doesn't happen overnight. Like, you're not just going to wake up one day and say, oh, I'm burnt out, right? It can happen into every single entrepreneur's life, where you feel, tired, and you've pushed a little bit too much, and you realize that, damn, I'm tired, let's rest. It's normal, it's healthy. If it's a permanent pattern, like, it's probably like, something needs to be broken. But otherwise, it will happen into your life. However, what I realize is that a lot of entrepreneurs are into a permanent state of what I call stage 1 burnout, right? And the stage 1 burnout is, so there's 3 steps, right, to stage 1 burnout. So number 1 is putting your own needs last, right? So we all do that. We bring our own needs last. We take care. We're like the oxygen mask analogy. We're worse for that, especially, the weird thing is that I work a lot with actually fitness and health professionals.
Yeah.
And we're supposed, I'm including myself because I've been through it, and as a health and fitness professional as well, is we're supposed to be example, and we do terrible at that.
Yeah.
And we're going to put the needs of our clients or of our of our members first, and then we don't take care of ourselves. So there's a lot it goes with on the physical side, right? So not working out as much or not eating as well, but also taking care of what's inside your 2 ears, right? And we always talk about physical health. We never talk about mental health and the importance of mental health, especially among entrepreneurs. Because why, do we burn out? I'll resume to the 3 steps in a minute for stage 1. But why do we burn out?
Yeah.
Right. First of all, our DNA. Why are we entrepreneurs? It's because that's who we are. That's how we are wired. We have that ability to think differently, to have creative problem solving capacities. There's a lot of, actually, when you look at statistics, there's a lot more ADHD, bipolarity, hypomania in the entrepreneurial world, because that's who we are. What I mean? That's our part of our DNA. So it's number 1. Second is the culture. The problem is that, especially in North America, I don't know if you see the difference between Australia and North America, but in North America, there's a big workaholism. And, you work a lot, you pat yourself on the back because you're hustling or, you're grinding, right? And it's a very unhealthy culture, right? And I think, there's a time for hustle and for grinding and grit, but it's never a sustainable solution. Think about something that grinds.
Yeah.
Is that going to be sustainable?
Yeah, that wears it out.
Right? It's going to break. It's the same thing with you and your work. So it's how to create sustainable models that, allow entrepreneurs to perform properly and stay out of the burnout zone. So the classic mistakes of 3 steps for stage 1 burnout: overcommitment, right? So 1, stop taking care of yourself. Second, overcommitment. I mean, we get success in one area and we're like, damn, I'm good at that. I can do that there as well. And I can do that, right?
I'm starting 4 companies.
100%. So, that's one thing that, I see a lot. And I was a victim of that. Like, I had great success with my first company. We started a second one, had massive success with it. And then I got, they actually came to me to partner up in the third one and acquire shares of the company. And I said yes, because I'm like, yeah, I can do it. I'm a superhero. I can do all that. And eventually, you burn out. So the problem is that you do that. And second is that you bring it home. So there's no harmony between your life and your business anymore. It's all business. Life has taken the backseat. There's problems with your spouse, with your family, with your kids if you have some, and that's a major problem, because if you want, again, sustainability, relationships, even if it's your kids, your wife, your partners, whoever, when there's no harmony between your life and your business, there will be problems. And it all goes back again to self-leadership, right? So when you look into stage 1, it's mostly a problem of yourself, of the entrepreneur himself, and not necessarily the business. And the problem is when you cross to stage 2, which is losing your entrepreneurial superpowers. Really losing them, creating like B or C grade work because you are totally overworked or you're exhausted. It's very hard to come back. So the problem is that a lot of people, you see a lot of entrepreneurs, it's like a functioning alcoholic, right? It's like some people will never notice, some people will never know, but because they are just in that state pretty much all the time, but they can function. They can, they run their bit, they drive their cars, whatever, but they're alcoholics. It's the same thing with business, and same thing with workaholism. You can be a highly functioning workaholic. It's the exact same thing. But the problem is that when you go to stage 2, burnout, it becomes very, very, very hard to come back. Stage 3 being, it's when you lose your entrepreneurial soul. So meaning like not only your health is gone, is that all your entrepreneurial spirit, your drive, you know, your ability to, your values, your, you know, everything that you stand for crumble. And from there, you know, there's only one way, is to go through what I call stage 4 is the crisis.
Yep.
The crisis is the deep realization of, damn, it's like rock bottom. Yeah. But I mean, it all comes in different ways. A lot of entrepreneurs go through it. It's like, it almost looks like a midlife crisis for entrepreneurs in a way, because so many people are in stage 1 for so long that eventually, you know, they're going to go through very quickly into stage 2, stage 3, and they're like, what the hell am I doing? Yep. And things need to change. And this is why you see like so many entrepreneurs, especially who have been in business for 10, 15 years, they're like, I don't want to do that anymore. You know, they're not passionate about their business anymore. They're not passionate about what they're doing, and they're questioning what they're doing. So what we do in that state, so I do work one-on-one with many entrepreneurs, but also we do what we call business detox retreats. Yep. It's exactly like an addict. You know, after the crisis, which is like the intervention pretty much, you got to detox, right? So we actually take entrepreneurs, we bring them into a secluded area of the world, no internet, no phone, obviously, disconnected completely for 3 days. And we detox. So it's called business detox retreats. And we help them actually like start reclaiming their schedule, showing them like how, you know, a proper work week should look like, how to set up their strategic boundaries, set up proper habits, routines. Are so partnered up with Dr. Stephen Cabral, who's a very well-known naturopathic doctor in the US. So he hosts these business detox retreats with me. So he deals with, you know, all the health side, how to deal with stress as well, because damn, it's just, you know, being an entrepreneur ain't easy. I mean, it's a stressful thing. It's the most stressful thing. That and being a parent, it's stressful enough.
Do both together.
Yeah, and you got to learn how to deal with that. Like, I think a lot of people, many entrepreneurs, just like, you know, they just toss that under the rug and forget about it, and they say, that's the way entrepreneurship is, and that's what it is.
Yes.
Well, guess what? What if that's not what it is, right?
That's a really good point, and that's something I wanted to ask you, Dave. Was I feel like, and I'd love to get your feedback and like what you think is like, are people open to this? Like a lot of people open to this, because I completely agree that a lot of people are in that stage 1 burnout, but are they willing to accept and say, I am, and I can be better? Or do you feel like that kind of mentality at the moment of hustle, grind, do you know what I mean? You just got to keep pumping all the way through it to achieve is actually not the optimal way to get to the desired outcome or achievement that somebody wants? How do you feel like where people are at right now with open to this message of being able to, I need to improve myself and my systems?
So there are more and more, I see more and more entrepreneurs being open to that, being open to change, being open to improve. Is that being now like their generation of like entrepreneurs like you and I, for example, have been in business for, you know, 10 years plus, let's say, and we're kind of the second generation of, let's say, online entrepreneurs.
Yep.
I'm not talking about the first gen, like us, that are most of the people you see online now that have had longevity, but they're 10 plus years, are way more open to it, because the timing, I think is right now. There's also, I think, the more people get addicted to technology, addicted to their phones, you know, and losing really human interactions, because ultimately we're human, right? I mean, like, we want to, that's the thing, we like, all you hear about now is productivity, right? You got to be productive. And after a while, you feel like you're a freaking robot. And there's nothing worse for an entrepreneur, or for, you know, for anyone really, it's to feel like a robot. I mean, you don't want to feel robotic, you want to feel human. Yes. So you need that connection again. And I think a lot of people are more open to it. However, there's still a lot of denial in the space. The last step of stage 3 is actually the last step before the actual crisis is actually like getting over the denial, like understanding that, acknowledging that shit, I got a problem. And when you do that, then this is when the crisis happened. This is when you realize that I need to take massive decisions, critical decisions in order to change that. Yeah. And that's always one of the last thing to happen, is that you're going to deny it over and over, because you're like, well, what are the others going to say? You know, that's all the signals that the culture is sending you is, you know, the hustle, the whole thing. You got to be this success. It's the cars, it's the money, it's whatever. It's the, you know, creating that $1 million launch. Yeah. You hear all the time, you're bombarded with that type of stuff, right? So what you're going to do is like, no, I'm just going to, you know, deny it, and I'm going to pretend that everything's okay. And I don't know if you saw that. I remember when you saw my conference in Tampa, I had that image of Johan Cornelia. It's the cartoon, and it really represents like the state of the culture right now. Totally. Is that, you know, everything's burning. There's multitasking going on, but the guy's like, everything's good, guys. Everything's cool, you know. But it's not. And so yeah, I think it's hopefully the culture is going to evolve. You know, I think we haven't thought too long about, you know, how entrepreneurs function and perform sustainably, especially in North America. It's, you know, what I do, the work that I do right now with, you know, with my new book and what I do with Epic as well. I try to raise as much awareness as possible for entrepreneurs to understand how they work and how understand how they operate, but how they can work better, how they can create their best work. And trust me, 100% of the time, you are not creating your best work when you're burnt out, or when you're overcommitted, or when you're busy, or when you have too many things, right? You do that when you're in full control and when you're fulfilled, right? And for entrepreneurs, like, as I said, the three things that matter really, bottom line, is your health, your relationships, and your freedom. And when you do that, and when you have that, when you reclaim that, really, it becomes a lot easier. Because money is never, people think money is the driver. Money is just a means to an end. Yeah. Financial freedom is part of freedom. However, it doesn't matter really as much how much you make. Because how much you make, the guys say like, oh, I want to make $2 million. Well, you don't want to make $2 million really. It's because
what does $2 million give you?
It's mostly to prove a point. Yeah. And in most of the cases, it's to prove their daddies that they're worthy. Yeah. Like, it's seriously, like, when we dive back, I mean, it was my case, you know. I wanted to be successful because I wanted to prove my dad that I was, you know, worthy. My dad's from the old school, never showing, you know, much affection or you know, feelings or anything like that. So growing up as a young adult, what do you do? I'm going to prove my dad that I'm worthy of his affection. And most guys, most entrepreneurs, it's a hidden driver that no one wants to acknowledge. And it's true when you go back.
For sure. And you know what? I was literally talking to my wife about this. I don't think it was last night. I think it was the night before. I was talking about how I want to go and do Cybernaut, and how I've got a feeling that that's going to be a big thing that comes up and that I have to work through. That's going to be one of those layers of the onion I have to pull back, because it's just like understanding, why do we operate the way we do? We don't consciously choose so many of the things that we would like to think that we do. But this is brilliant. And I want to like give you massive props, Dave, because the work that you do and bringing this awareness is so important. Like for myself, I don't know if I told you when we met, I went on a 4-day meditation retreat a little while ago, and I only had like 2 days in preparation for it. It was the first time I'd ever stepped away from the business properly. And I had like 2 days to actually prep, because I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I was like, shit, how does the business run? How does everything operate without me doing anything? Like no internet, no phone, like no technology whatsoever. And I came back from it, and it was really good. I was really good. The business was really good. It was still operating really well. And I was like, And then like, firstly, it was my ego going, oh shit, like maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, but also being able to then truly do that. And like, honestly, that's why I'm actually here right now doing this kind of 3 to 4 month nomad trip, because I wanted to pressure test myself. I said, if I can only have this finite amount of time to put into my business, to be able to enjoy with my family, to be able to enjoy the world and actually go about it, not be kind of stuck down, because I found myself in my home office, tapping away like a madman, do you know what I mean? From morning till night and losing the love for it. But honestly, the work that you're doing, I think is one of the most important stuff when it comes to entrepreneurs doing what they need to. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much, man. It really means a lot because it's work that is very, very important to me. It's something that I'm, obviously 110%, passionate about, really, because I've been on the other side. I know how it feels, and it's not a good place, man. It's really not a good place to be in. And I feel like, for me, like, I talk about purposeful performance, is that I like, a lot of people they say, I want to change the world, right? So that's all you hear. I want to change the world. Cool. How are you going to do that? And they don't know how they're going to do that. So, and they think that it's the direct intervention that will change that. Like, what about you contribute in your own ways to, a better world? And I realized that for me, what if I can create something that it's not just me, it's not about me, it's about what I do for others, especially entrepreneurs, because, I'm a huge advocate of entrepreneurship, obviously, and innovation. And I sincerely think, like, entrepreneurs are the future. They are, the innovators. They're the people that are actually creating new jobs. And I'm like, how can I support them in the best way possible? Knowing what I know, and, going through the burnout. It's funny because you hear a lot of people say that. It's like, when you go through a burnout, you're going to come back out of it and you're going to realize it's the greatest gift that was ever given to you. And at first I was like, yeah, whatever, no way. And I came back out of it, and the fact that it all came together when I had my masterminds and I was coaching clients, and I had to set up these systems, and it all fell into place, and the right people came to me, and it felt right. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life, if I can, to that. And I think at this point of time, I don't know how, hopefully, in 20 years, we won't even have to talk about it, because it's going to be fully integrated into the culture, into, the entrepreneurial consciousness, if you want. Yeah. But for now, I feel like that's my role, and I feel it's important work, and I love doing that. I feel like I'm doing my best work right now. I feel on purpose. I feel performant. I feel it feels right. And thank you for giving me that platform to share that, because I feel it's something that, and I'm happy that you share my view of the entrepreneurial world, because it's an important message, and I'm glad that you're helping me share it.
No, it is absolutely my pleasure. And like, just like the conversation that yourself, Ben Bukowski, and I had when we just had lunch the other day, do you know what I mean? It was just, I walked out of that a better human being. I'm walking out of this as a better human being. And I really hope that the listeners and the viewers do as well. So Dave, thank you so much. Now, there's a couple of really important things that we need to cover, because I know that we've talked about the business detox. We've talked about the planner as well. How the hell do people actually get a part of this?
Cool. So you can have, first of all, planners. You can go on ethic.co. Chris, I'm going to set up your listeners with 10% discount.
Awesome.
We'll use, I don't know, I'm just coming up with it. So why don't we use the passcode Duffy?
Oh, okay. Done deal. All right. So I'll pop in the show notes. I'll pop the link so everybody can get a part of that as well. So you can get the 10%. I highly recommend it. It's golden. It's probably the biggest piece. So I always find that a lot of people, like a lot of strategies, a lot of tactics, they work. What doesn't work is the entrepreneur actually trying to pursue those things as well. So if you operate at the level that you need, all these other things fall into place. And that's why I think what Dave's doing is so great.
Thanks, my man. Yeah, so we'll set it up. So 10% if you use the code Duffy, and business detox retreats. You're going to have links as well. So you can take a look when our next business detox retreat is. We have one. I don't know when this show is gonna air, Chris, but we have one in May right now. So May 3rd.
Coming up before May. Yeah.
Yeah, so May 3rd to May 6th. It's in Essex, right outside of Boston.
Awesome.
And we have a very nice retreat center there, and we have up to 20 entrepreneurs who come there for the weekend.
Awesome.
So very nice group. Always, there's still some seats available. So for listening, if not, like, get in touch with me and or check on the website. We added new dates, but that's the next one that we have. That's May 3rd to May 6th.
I highly recommend that. All right, excellent. Dave, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You are just awesome,
man.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
This is where I want to make sure that you get the most out of being here, and I want to hear from you. So if you've enjoyed this episode, click like and make sure I can send you the new episodes each and every week. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also, I really want to make sure that I'm giving you exactly what you need. So comment below. I want to know what you're going to take away from this episode. And the best conversations after every episode always happen in the Breaking Success Tribe. I'll pop a link below for you to join the free group so you get access to the guides, the live streams. I'm in there answering your questions personally each and every day. Plus you get all the episodes as well. So thank you so much for being here and joining us. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.